you tell me a bit about yourself and your work, including the production you mentioned you are currently working
Right out
on?
of high school, I started performing professionally. So I didn't go to college right out of high school because I went on the road and started working in the field. I did mostly musical theater and cruise ship work, and I've done some Broadway work and choreographed quite a bit. So the one I'm working on now was actually a show that I have always wanted to choreograph and never had the opportunity.
So what is it?
It's Cabaret.
Cabaret, okay. That's awesome. So you worked on a lot of different things. I was reading on your website that you have worked with Olympians and Grammy winners on lots of different things, including like musical theater, like you said. What work would you say you're most proud of?
Choreographically, it would have to be this production that I'm doing now. And I put together some opening ceremonies for Special Olympics that I was really proud of. It was a huge project and very proud of that. And actually, Mike Worcel and I co-directed and choreographed an original ballet with Sandy Patty, and it's called Le Voyage. And I was very, very proud of that work. It was an awesome piece.
For sure. It says that you worked in swing.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a bit about that? Because my university, Ball State, is actually putting on swing right now.
I think that the first time I was involved with that, my partner with my production company, Ken Shepard, and I, we were asked to choreograph it at a theater in Illinois, in Sullivan, Illinois. And then we went on to choreograph it in 3 other states. And then we directed and choreographed it in Indianapolis about 7 years ago. And I directed and choreographed it, and I was also in it. There's been about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, well, actually 6, because I co-choreographed with Michael Worcel when he did it at Civic Theater here in Indianapolis. So I've worked on 6 productions of swing.
That's incredible. So as a dancer in the diverse field of jazz, does jazz history inform what you do, and if so, how?
Jazz is, it encompasses, it's kind of an umbrella term for so many different styles. I mean, it was brought over by Africans, and it was brought to the Americas, and, the slaves. That's kind of where we all were introduced to it. Then it went into vaudeville and burlesque, and eventually into theater dance, and all of the movements from those time periods. That's what dictates, really, for me, what I do today. It's all because of that, that history and what all of those stylizations.
That's incredible. Have you ever studied the history of jazz?
There was a time that when I was younger that I wanted to learn where this origin was from, where it came from, and why it was different. I mean, I took, of course, I took ballet class and all the classical forms and modern, but I was always drawn to jazz. I think it's because it's so rhythmic and earthy.
You said that you really think about what you do in jazz is based off of what people have done before you. Do you think about the history and context of your dancing when you're creating and choreographing it?
When I'm creating a choreographed period piece where I'm going to draw on to the historical aspect and use that, of course, then I would. But more speaking in context of the more modern things, I don't necessarily draw on the actual movements that were iconic for different forms, but obviously the flavor of that goes into the choreography.
What impact do you hope to leave on the field of jazz dance and society as a whole?
By teaching the true tradition of dance, jazz dance specifically, I want to keep that alive because that is the history, and that's what needs to continue to be pushed forward so that we don't lose the heritage of it. And so I definitely hope that the work that I do is pure and traditional, and that maybe people will take that and continue it.
How would you define jazz dance? You talked about that a little bit earlier about how it's a very umbrella term. which is actually something we've been talking about in my classes. So that's really interesting that you brought that up. But how do you define it for yourself, either generally or specifically what you do?
I just think jazz dance for me is a very rhythmic, earthy form of dance that emotional.
And my final question is, who is your biggest inspiration?
Bob Fosse, of course. To me, I love his style. He was so innovative, the way he moved and what he did. And I had an opportunity to audition for him and meet him about a year before he passed away. And so it was sort of a dream of mine to someday meet him. And I think he was probably the most inspiring.